I want to welcome everyone. We're so glad to have this special panel today. We are the Florida End of Life Doula Alliance and Friends. Um, and we are also called FEOLDA. Our website is feolda.org. And this is a special time for us to learn more about the Florida natural burial cemeteries, green cemeteries, conservation cemeteries. So we have 4 that are active and blossoming in our state, and we're very happy to have you guys here with us. So we have Hope Eternal Gardens in Punta Gorda, and yes, that's Lauren. And we hold on a second. Yeah, I want to say it right. Heartwood Preserve Conservation Cemetery, and that's Laura Starkey. And they are in Trinity. And Prairie Creek Conservation Cemetery in Gainesville, that's Heather. And we also have Glendale Memorial Nature Preserve, and they are in Defuniak Springs, up in the northern end of the state. So we're very, very glad to be here. And without further ado, we will go ahead and start with our first one, which is going to be Hope Eternal Gardens. And Laura, did you want to ask some questions? Yeah.
Yes. Hi, Lauren.
Hi.
We are honored to have you here today, and we just have a few questions, and we're wondering how you got into this line of work.
Oh, okay. Well, so my husband and I actually had or still have a landscape architecture design firm. And so we were living in Miami, and my mother-in-law, she needed basically caregiving. And so we came to Punta Gorda, and she had this dream of a green burial, natural burial option in Southwest Florida. And she just said, if I would like it, I'm sure there's got to be some other people who would be interested in it in our area. And so this was like her final wish, and we just decided to go ahead and take on that undertaking. It took us 5 years to do all of our licensing and permitting and all of that very tedious application stuff and going in front of people. But this is the most fulfilling line of work I could have imagined. And even though it was definitely something that happened upon, or that it was like this thing that we had to step up to the plate to do, it's been just incredible. So that's our little story. But yes, my mother-in-law was the inspiration for Hope Eternal Gardens.
That's wonderful. And what would you say makes your cemetery unique?
So, with green cemeteries, we talk about like different shades of green, and our shade of green is we are creating something to conserve. We are on 42 acres, and it was mostly cow pasture, and it was previously a horse ranch. So what we're doing is we are planting microforests or memorial forests, and I'll talk a little. I have pictures because it's hard to imagine what that looks like, but we're planting these forests with our family member, or the families who come to us. And the goal is to create over 20 acres of new self-sustaining native habitat on our property.
I was wondering if you want to go ahead and show us some photos of your beautiful cemetery.
Yeah. Well, I can start with my slides.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Well, let me. In this moment, as a millennial, hopefully I can still be tech savvy. Okay, we have that. We're going to enter full screen mode. Okay, can everyone see? Good, can you see my mouse? Okay, great. So we are a state licensed natural burial cemetery, and what makes us special is that we plant memorial forests with our families. Our thesis or our goal is to create life out of loss, and we're doing that in 3 different ways. First, through natural burial or green burial. The second is through the memorial forest planting. And third is by creating a sustainable park for the future. So just to touch on natural burial, I didn't expect to go first, so I will go ahead and, I guess, lay the groundwork for how we define it to our families. But basically, it's the unencumbered return to the earth. So what that means for specifically at Hope Eternal Gardens is no embalming or chemical preservation, biodegradable burial containers only, no concrete vaults or liners, and we are burying 3 to 4 feet instead of what most people think of as 6 feet under, where it's in that microbial, it's that area where the mycorrhizae are, and the soil is alive, so you can really return to the earth. And just jumping into the memorial forest. So I had mentioned, my husband is a licensed landscape architect, and we came across this technique called the Miyawaki forest planting method. It was developed in the 1970s by a Japanese botanist. And what's pretty incredible about this is that we call it it's like the magic forest. But basically, compared to planting like hundreds of pine trees or a monoculture, these forests are recreating native habitat, and they grow 10 times faster and 30 times denser than a monoculture planting. And that means that they're also much more resilient. This method has been used to plant over 30,000 acres of self-sustaining forest all around the world in all different climate zones. And their kind of tagline is it's a 200-year-old forest in 20 years. And the way that they kind of measured that is the earliest planted forests have now, in terms of like height, density, biodiversity, have all caught up to neighboring native old growth forest. So it's just a very, I guess it's this like proven method that allows human beings to be able to actively create forests that were not previously there, or were not there because it's been turned into pasture, the land's been managed differently. So what does that look like? The forest, or this image on the left, is a newly planted forest. You'll notice that all of the, the trees are very, they're 1 gallon or 3 gallon, they're smaller plant material. And within 5 months, you can see the big jump in the growth. It also helps that, Florida summers are tons of rain, tons of sun. So it's a great time for growing. And then my husband, he created these renderings. That one of the benefits of having an in-house landscape architect is we can actually help our families visualize what the future will look like. So this is just like an illustration, just to get an idea of what they are creating. We'll just kind of flip through these. So this is a planting that we did a couple months ago. But right, here we go. Okay, so the picture all the way on the left. Okay, I think we're caught up now. So the picture on the left is the day of the planting. In the middle is just 5 months of growth. And then on the right is a rendering that my husband did to illustrate what that forest will look like. And I think our unique shade of green is that it's this transformation that happens on such a short timeline that families really get this. It seems to be very helpful in terms of like really seeing your impact right away. And the other thing that's pretty amazing about it, okay, so here's one that we did, this was February of last year, and this is 15 months of growth for one of the first forest areas that we've done. This is a mesic and hydric hammock. So we've got our slash pine, longleaf pine, we've got Mark's myrtle, there's palmettos in there, but it's a very, let's see, because my husband's a landscape architect, he not only has identified these habitats that are specific to our area, to our elevation, to our soil, but also he's had to break down like, okay, what's the percentage of canopy trees, sub-canopy, all the different parts of the forest in order for us to recreate this native habitat. Very much like a community of people, we all have our strengths and weaknesses as individuals. These plants compete with each other, but also can help each other as they build that underground network. So again, there are smaller plant material when we first do the plantings with families. we've had children as young as 2 years old participate in a planting, and then we've also had people who have had different ability levels participate as well. For example, we had one woman, she had a walker, and her family was able to like dig the hole for her, and then together they held the tree and placed it into the hole. There was a step where we had to mulch in the planting once it was done. She was able to, to help contribute in that way. And also at the very end, we do like a watering in, so she wouldn't let go of the hose. She was very excited to finally, that was her contribution. So what's amazing is if you do it when everybody, when there's no like terminal illness, when there's no, impending death, this planting becomes this really joyous occasion. It's this time where friends and family can come together and say, we created a habitat. Like within the span of 2 hours, you are creating something that is resilient. It won't get, we aren't taking these trees out. We're not touching them ever again. And compared to like a single memorial tree, which has its own lifespan, these microforests are, they're going to regenerate. They're going to have little babies, and those babies will grow up, and this is something that will last for generations. So it's just really powerful. And then for people who have already lost a loved one, there's something really incredible about coming together to create a living memorial for that family member. And it's something that they come and they do on day one, but then they can come back 6 months later or a year later, and they can see that it is just completely transformed. And there's something very healing about that. We know that being in nature and gardening help with symptoms of anxiety and depression. And so we just see this as a very, it's a way for people to participate and have more of an active role in the grieving process, whether that's anticipatory grief or afterward. Like, how can we hold people's hands, at every single stage of this? This is an example of our broom sedge meadow right now. Within 20 years, we anticipate it to look like the image on the right after all, the families have planted. So we're talking about just incredible transformation in terms of shade, temperature, the experience of the space. Every single burial space has a 4-foot pathway in front of it. So that way everyone will always, you will never have to walk across a grave in order to find your loved one. And it also makes it a lot easier to navigate. My mother-in-law, she was in a wheelchair. And so we experienced firsthand when we were taking care of her, like all of these spaces she wasn't able to access. And one of like the core memories that we have is she went to go visit the gravesite of her late husband. He's the reason we ended up taking care of her, because he was her primary caregiver and he passed away suddenly. But she wasn't able to reach his gravesite. It was the closest she could get was like 30 feet away, and it was because it was an incline and it was lawn, so it's not accessible. She would have tipped over in her wheelchair, and she just cried. She couldn't. So that, yeah.
Lauren, just
Yes.
for the sake of time, we've
Yes.
seen an incredibly beautiful rendition here of what you're doing.
Okay.
We are going to have to kind of move on because we want to save some time for Q&A.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Yeah, so
Can I just show one more image?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So just the last thing is just we're building a sustainable park. So there'll be artists, residences, cottages, boardwalks. There'll be all sorts of things, because sustainability, yes, it's environmental, but it's also how we can contribute to our community for generations. So, okay, that's it. Thank you.
I hate to cut you off, but that is gorgeous. That is just.
Sorry, thank you.
Thanks so much. I knew we were going to try to pack so much into this 1 hour, but I think it's going to be amazing for people to see. So we're going to move on to Laura
Right.
from the owner of Heartwood Preserve Conservation Cemetery in Trinity, Florida. And I was delighted to maybe a month ago or so to visit the cemetery and have a good time with Laura. And she rode me around in the golf cart, and it was just amazing because the only two that I visited are Prairie Creek and Heartwood, and just the different personality of that place. So I guess I want to ask you at least one question, and then I'll let you show your slides as well. So what makes your cemetery unique? What's the vibe, the personality, and how would you describe your Heartwood Cemetery?
Yeah, sure. I think what makes us unique or special is our location and our mission, which is we're located on the top end of the north end of the Tampa Bay area. So we're in a very, suburban, highly developed, highly developing, quickly developing what's left area of the Tampa Bay region. And so we reach the full Tampa Bay market, but we're bordering an 18,000 acre wilderness preserve that's preserved by the state. And so we're literally in the land conservation world, we call it the wildland urban interface. So we are literally right on that interface between nature, the natural environment, and the built environment. And so as a result, we're also just kind of reaching we're reaching a pretty broad market or audience of people. So we have a lot of mainstream type of folks, not we meet the outdoorsy, nature-based people. Yes, of course, this is a natural fit, but we also reach a lot of folks that wouldn't ordinarily necessarily be out in nature, but they find that peace and they find themselves out there. So anyway, I think that's kind of a special
Yeah, I noticed
piece
as I was
about.
driving there, I'd see a lot. It was very flat and very Florida, and there were a lot of houses, nice houses with the covered pools and the screen, and it just like boom, there's the cemetery there. And it was just real interesting, real different. Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
sweet. Well, okay.
I'll go ahead and share real
Go
quick and
ahead
go
and
ahead about we're a flatwoods ecosystem, longleaf pine flatwoods. These are longleaf pines, and our forest is one of the most biodiverse types of ecosystems in the country, if not in the hemisphere in the world. So we're protecting an existing ecosystem. I love what Lauren is doing down in Punta Gorda with creating, kind of restoring property and back into a system, but this is protecting an existing system. This is just gives you a picture of where we are, what I just mentioned about our location. This blue star is where we are, and this is down here is the peninsula of Tampa Bay, of Pinellas County, and Clearwater up in here. Here's all of Tampa, and all of these alongside. This is just the corridor of development. So this was projected growth from a few years ago. A lot of this is already coming to pass. Then you see this green swath right next to us. That's the wilderness preserve that we are next to. So we're a tiny little corner below that. Here's just a little map of a portion of our property. We're about 41 acres altogether. Of that, the areas you see in the middle here with the names on them are our currently open burial areas. It's about 3 to 4 acres that are currently open. We're getting ready to open up a new section, hopefully early next year. We've got a lot of wildlife. The Audubon group comes out all the time, and we get all these great pictures and from their bird lists from getting up early in the morning. And so these are not out of a book. They're actually from our property that were sent to us by people with those giant cameras with the big lenses, and we just love it that they send us these beautiful pictures. Wildlife, deer, turkey, gopher tortoises, and people life. We have lots of people that come out. This was from one of the tours that we had about trees. And so we try to really bring people out to learn about the environment that we're in so they can understand why, what we're about. And then we've also had a wedding here. So I was so proud of this. This happened a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years, 3 or 4 years ago now, I guess. And they were this young couple. They didn't have a particular connection to us, but a friend of a friend brought them out, and they're like, "Can we rent your room and can we have our wedding here?" And we're like, "Yes." So that was just beautiful, and it just, I thought it was really nice to just feel like there's life in addition to, us saying goodbye to those we love. We do prescribed fire as part of our land management. That's really an important piece of keeping our ecosystem intact. So this is one of our staff members getting her first. She had just joined us a couple months before, so everybody gets to have their day with holding the drip torch and dropping fire on the landscape as we do the prescribed burns. And then the burials themselves, of course, a natural burial is, in a casket or in a shroud that is biodegradable. This is a beautiful wicker casket that's on the market. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but we have a lot of burials with this particular casket, type of casket, but it can be a pine box casket. It can be a cardboard box. Some people are buried in the shipping, the transport containers that people use for cremation. But there are some really beautiful products on the market as well for green burial. Here's a burial where the family, the lady that is in this shroud you see on the board. She wanted everybody to wear bright colors. She was like, "I'm an old hippie. I'm a flower child, please." And the daughter that's in the tank top here with their phone, these are all her daughters walking behind, and she's playing on her phone at the mother's request. Fat Bottom Girls from Queen on her phone as we walked out there. It was just beautiful and funny and sweet and just what she wanted. This is what the burial site looks like when we have opened the grave and have it prepared for the casket or shroud board to come and lay across the top. We don't hide the dirt. We don't place, astroturf over it like you would at a conventional modern cemetery. Everything is done by hand. I will say we dig the grave with a machine. Not everyone. I know Heather's going to talk about their openings, but ours we do use a machine to open it. And during the heat of the summer, we close the bulk of them. We do a lot of it by hand, but the lowering is always done by hand. Just some images for you to understand what it looks like. You can see the soil on the sides of the wood. That, like Lauren mentioned, the graves are 3.5 feet, roughly 3 to 3.5 feet deep. And this is us hand closing the grave. And then after we've closed the grave, we sprinkle wildflower seeds on top. That's really the only planting that we do at Heartwood, which is basically when, each grave is a disturbance of the soil. So we want to kind of reseed the top of it. And so the family is given a bowl of seeds to sprinkle over the top, and which just feels like a really nice, finishing of the day and saying their final, final goodbye. And then we place pine needles on top, and people can put cut flowers on it or pine cones. And this is a cremation burial. We also do burial of cremated remains. And here's just a couple images of the mounds after they have been closed, and people have put flowers on them. Everybody does a different kind of decoration. Some people don't bring any flowers at all, and we just have the seeds and the pine straw on top. Over time, this mound will settle down down to ground level. At Heartwood, we do have a plaque that this is about 5 by 7. It's about this big. So it's either oval. You can choose either oval or rectangular. It's on a stake that goes down at ground level. So the family it's optional. Most people choose it, but some people don't want a plaque. We have, of course, the location is permanently recorded in our records and in our location system. And it's just beautiful. I just love these pictures of these bright flowers. Obviously, they're from a florist, but they're all, done in such a way that these can be placed on top, not to grow, but just to be beautiful for the day and a couple days afterwards. And then everything else returns to the earth. We're fortunate to have a building that we can have events in. We have on the left here is our big meeting room. This is the welcome center. So the left side of this building is this large room, and we have this nice front porch. People can bring food. We've had this picture in the top right corner is actually from I think that was our grand opening party. So we have balloons for that. But families can really design their events, their burial services. We had a very traditional evangelical Christian family here today and they had a whole prayer service in there with their music and everything this morning. And we've had Buddhist groups. We've had military burials. We had a young man who was a Marine pass away a couple months ago, and they had full honors with them, which was very moving as well.
Beautiful. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. The pictures
Yeah.
really say a lot.
Yeah, and
All
this
right.
is so that's pretty much it. That was this is just a beautiful quote from one of our men who has his son's ashes buried here. You can read it for yourself, but that's just
Yeah.
I think one of the things that that natural burial really provides the family is that peace, that peace when they come out. So I'm going to stop
yeah.
sharing.
Thank
That's my
you so
last.
much. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Woo.
So,
Okay. Christine, do you want to introduce the next one?
We are moving to Gainesville with Heather Grove at Prairie Creek Conservation Cemetery.
Welcome to Prairie Creek. We are about now 100 acres of conservation easement that is protected in perpetuity within the 600 acres of Prairie Creek Preserve, which is owned by Alachua Conservation Trust. They have over 66,000 acres throughout the state that they actively work on restoring and conserving. But the beautiful thing about our little 100-acre slice is that it is an old slice of Florida, very picturesque with all of the I don't know, can you see my screen now? Can you see it? Let's see. Is that visible? Lots of live oaks, and we have two ecosystems here, more of a pine uplands, wildflower meadow that some people like to choose from, or more of a mesic hardwood hammock. But the beautiful thing about this space is that we're also connected to 20,000 acres out at Payne's Prairie. So this space truly is a living memorial and a wildlife sanctuary. I see bobcat out here, deer, turkey, all the fun species that come roaming through here. So our job is really twofold at the cemetery. It's just as equally focused on active restoration of new areas that we're expanding into, and then also completing natural burials and returning folks back to the earth here. So I think our cemetery is a little unique in that we have a very large community of volunteers that are actively involved, and also just the participants and loved ones that come out are very involved in the burials themselves. As Laura mentioned, we do hand dig graves, which can take anywhere from an hour to 10 hours, depending on what part of the cemetery people choose. Some areas are clay and rock, others are really sandy, and it can just be quick. I think compared to a lot of conventional burials, often folks just feel like they're witnessing this burial and not really getting to heal physically through the process of burying and taking care of their own loved ones. So it's unique in that, unlike conventional cemeteries with headstones, you can see we use these brass markers. Can you all see that? And this is just used to mark each grave site. We do native plantings as well, which you can see here. Depending on what ecosystem, we have one planting day in the meadow in the fall and in the woods in the spring, and people can choose from the appropriate species that we change every year just to increase biodiversity. I'd say, what else? Go through some of the pictures here. But yeah, in terms of I guess our cemetery is unique as well in that it's been here for 15 years. So we're celebrating our 15th anniversary. We've completed 1,400 burials, and are just now starting a 5-year restoration process on a whole new area in the North Meadow. So that's been a really big focus of mine the last couple of years. It's pretty exciting. And I just think in general, all of these, conservation burial grounds offer something in the sense of being a part of something bigger, this mission to protect our beautiful little slices of Florida. And yeah, it's definitely an honor to be a part of. I don't know, did you have questions or should I just keep on sharing images? It's very simple, and I think that's one of the really special things about this type of burial too, is that it leaves space for people to connect with nature and just see the profoundness in how simple these burials can be. It's really healing, I think, and there's this sense of control that we seem to have over things in life. But as we learn through death, there really is no control of anything. And as in nature, I'm from Central Florida where we do have a little bit of seasons, but up here, there really is a big contrast in seasons. And I think that can really help folks to process grief and and the letting go, but also in welcoming in new things in the spring. And so, yeah, it's a special, special place that, yeah, I hope you all are able to come visit. We do tours often. Yeah, sorry. Is it
No,
Chris?
I wanted to make sure you had time to illustrate or narrate each of the photos that you had here, so we didn't overlook it. Yes, I think your volunteer corps is a standout feature of the programming there. And also, I wanted to ask, in your 15 years of the organization, what you might see as evolving or might have changed from its opening to present operations, whether that's public perception, decisions that were pivotal in the organization, or any other perspective.
Yeah, I'd say probably the commitment to making natural burial accessible to as many people as possible is probably the shine through commitment that really hasn't changed. It hasn't been like a big pivotal turning point. I think it has driven us to just really be committed to that. So, it's really a unique, diverse community and that we serve. And so, I don't know, to me, that's just such a beautiful part of the organization. But yeah, I mean, right now, personally, I've only been here 2.5 years. And I know right now feels like we're taking a giant leap forward in the sense that, we have an expansion task force that's really active and seeking out new areas, not only within this preserve, but beyond. And, just it's been so beautiful to see the demand constantly growing. Like we're doing like 30 tours a month now. It's almost a tour every day, and it's yeah, it's a beautiful thing and very overwhelming some days. Yeah.
Can you say a little bit more about what accessible means to Prairie Creek? Is that in terms of pricing, or is it in terms of physical access? What is that?
Yeah. I think pricing, also physical access. We just redid some trails, and in partnership with ACT, they now have an eco rover. It's like a wheelchair on tank wheels, if you can imagine that allows folks to go out through the woods, because some of these trails can be a 5-minute walk to a grave from the parking area. So yeah, in a lot of ways. I think also being approachable is a type of accessibility, and not everybody is warmed up to death yet in our society. So, just having staff that are really, understanding and gentle with all of this. But yeah, I don't know.
Can I brag about your staff?
Sure.
In my visit, I've been to the cemetery. I live on the Nature Coast, so I'm about an hour and a half from Gainesville. And I was given a tour in side by side because we were moving kind of quick, so I could see both the the different types of landscape that they work with. And the staffer was explaining what she was doing, and they just finished some major conservation projects. But she said anytime they work with clearing and making sure that a gravesite is intact, that they obviously know who they're working with, but that they say the name aloud. So every year that name gets said, spoken aloud. And I thought that was, super cool. I think families would love to know that.
Yeah, it's a really meditative process. I mean, it serves a function. We do site checks every year and go through the cemetery, making sure that everything's where it's supposed to be. But it is a beautiful process of saying these names aloud, and yeah, everybody being recognized, because some of them may not be that often. So yeah, it definitely feels, at first I think I felt more of a steward to the land and the place here, but more and more it feels like you're a steward to these people that are just below the surface. So yeah. I don't know, any other questions? I want to save room and time
Just
for
maybe stop the screen share so we can, yeah, we'll go back to the group. And great. Thank you so much. That's beautiful. Yeah, just moving on. So we do have a little bit of time for Q&A. Now we're going to have our, I believe the first ever natural burial cemetery in Florida. And that's Glendale Memorial Nature Preserve. I want to say that I looked at their website, at you guys' website, and then I called John and spoke with him. I've called and spoke with him a few times. And what I was impressed looking at the website, John, was that you look like you're training home funeral celebrants. You're really down home and down to earth. Like there was so much educational information there that you don't generally see. So it wasn't a feeling of a commercial website. It was just like, y'all come on and get the real deal here. And, and then talking with John was just such a delight. So my one question for you, first of all, is for John, is if you were to briefly describe your relationship with Glendale Memorial Nature Preserve, how would you describe your relationship with this place?
Wow.
Home.
My standard response to everybody who shows up here is, me and my brother got a 350-acre farm the old-fashioned way, inheritance.
Mhm.
Parents got us to agree not to break it into little pieces. They did not leave us the bazillion dollars drawing interest to pay the trust fund lawyers and the tax man. You do not own property. You pay rent to your government. Try not paying it and see what happens. Okay, with that said, there's no taxes on a cemetery. Aha. So that's the original concept / rationale behind a green cemetery. My mother had done the research and the philosophizing over the years due to her aversion to embalming. There's no law requiring embalming. There's no law requiring a body be in a container. Most cemeteries require a vault. We became the second green cemetery in America, the first in Florida. It was quite a project in that we were just basic old ignorant, naive country boys. Life ain't that simple in the politics of America today. Okay, I am a conspiracy theory. I'll leave that alone for now. We eventually got a license for the state of Florida to operate a cemetery under exempt cemetery. At this point in time, it's working. We've got 193, I think,
93,
people buried here. And it's working, okay? It's going to keep this farm intact forevermore. With all that said, I'm going to turn this over to Fawn. She's taking
I've become our PR person, apparently.
and grave digger and
Yep.
and Ace Coon Boom video maker and face crack
I've been given many hats. I don't have the fancy slides that the other cemeteries had. That was really cool looking. I was like, dang, that was so professional. What am I doing? You know, we keep things simple around here. We really do. We take recycling and repurposing very seriously here, not just in death, but in life as well. And I think that's what kind of sets us apart from a lot of the other folks is that we're eclectic up here. We have the Rustisauruses on our property, which is from leftover from their farming career. We had a lot of machinery left over that got turned into art projects.
We were a working farm for many, many years. We collected a lot of junk machinery. This particular office was right in the middle of a junkyard, seriously. We were told clean up. We started turning our scrap metal into artwork. That makes us fairly unique. Come see us.
Well, once you put your trash together, it's no longer trash, it's art, right? Another thing that we really do here in terms of the recycling is we fabricate our own markers for the burial sites. Originally, this is where we started. We were purchasing these here, and then we would hand punch them. They're just aluminum and brass markers. Now we've used waste motor oil to melt down recycled metals here, and then we attach it to a rebar piece, and then it gets hand stamped with the name of the deceased, their birth date and their death date on it. And one goes at the head and the foot of each grave site to kind of signal where they are and which direction they're facing, because we don't have uniformity whenever it comes to our burial sites. If you're out there on a tour and you're the family member or the person who's looking to get buried out here, if something just, you get some chills, the wind blows the right way, you're like, this is where I want to be buried. I want to go with my head in the north. You got it. This is where you're at. We don't have set plots, and that's really unique for sure for us, is that you just go and you tell us where you want to be buried and we'll dig a hole. Another thing that we really pride ourselves on is our cost effectiveness. That's something that's really dear to us, is that we charge $1,800 for the opening and closing of the gravesite, and you can have your memorial life celebration at our open face chapel that we have on the preserve free of charge. And in the state of Florida, you're not required to have a funeral director, so we can help guide the family into what paperwork to file, what transportation, how to get your deceased here and then in the ground, really giving the ceremony back to the family and putting the family in charge. Because I feel like, when the family is more involved, there's more closure than giving over their deceased loved one to somebody that you don't know, and you're handling them, what's going into it, that they're being properly cared for because you're caring for them. And that's another big thing that we really pride ourselves on, is giving back to the family and cost effectiveness. That way your life insurance can go to actually providing for your family now that you're not there, and not to some elaborate celebration, because you can have that celebration of life and that memoriam without breaking the bank. And that's another thing that we really pride ourselves on. I kind of rambled for a bit there, didn't I? I went off.
Well, I love it. I just love you guys, your style and your down to earth way. And so really it's 1:45, so I think we could open it up to questions, did you have anything else you wanted to particularly share? Because we could open it up to questions. I want to make sure if there's, each cemetery gets a question or two, so we don't have one dominate. So I guess what I'd like to ask is, does anyone have any questions for Glendale, since they've been the ones just speaking right now? Defuniak Springs is where you are. So that's way up in the northern end of the state.
Yeah, we're up in Northeast. We're kind of, we're smack dab in the middle between Panama City and Pensacola.
Northwest.
Yeah. So are there any questions for these guys?
I just gave everyone privilege to unmute, so if you want to unmute and ask a question, please do.
I kind of have a question for all the groups, if that's okay.
Sure.
All right, because I know this panel is being held by the Florida End of Life Doula Alliance. I was just curious to know how you guys work with doulas or like end of life doulas in general, and if they're like if you would say how big of a part they play in your guys' operation. Just that's a question for everyone, by the way.
Good question.
I know for us, we really don't do a whole lot with doulas in particular out here. A lot of what we primarily deal with is family and funeral homes. I would like to see doulas more involved in families here in our area. I don't know if there's a big following specifically in our area. I don't know about the rest of Florida, but I think it would be great. Doulas, I know that this was a question on the email that went out, and I really wanted to answer that, and this kind of plays into that. What can doulas do for green burial, and how can we incorporate a little bit more? I think that doulas are really important because they allow families and the person who's going to pass away the options. Instead of last minute and you're scrambling and you don't know what to do and you're devastated and you're heartbroken, this is the worst time of your life and you can't make decisions on your own and you're going to get taken advantage of. And if a doula is involved, the options can be laid out significantly and you can have time to make those options. And that would be great to see more doula interaction for sure. Absolutely.
We've had a number of, I would agree with that 100%. Yeah, you guys are really out there working with the families that are really, facing that end of life and making those decisions. And we're at the other side of that, obviously. So the way, we connect, we've had a number of folks like Chris who have just stopped in or, contacted us, and Shanti, who've said, hey, I'm an end of life doula, or I'm a death doula and love what you're doing, want to know more about it. And we've had folks, doulas, come and like give a talk to where we'll put it on our calendar and then on our mailing list to say, hey, come out at 3 o'clock on Sunday or 7 p.m. this Thursday to hear about what a death doula does. So we have kind of gotten the word out that way. But in terms of so we've got a number of death doulas who have been really connected with us, but I think that just getting, being that voice with families who are, I think families that are, working with you all are really wanting to take hold of their own death, end of life. And this is part of that, is being able, all four of us, we're all four of these beautiful places are all giving those families that like the most control over how they do, what happens to their body at the end, and I think that's just a really important message that you all are able to do.
I think
I just wanted to add that we had a local death doula reach out to us, and we did do a tour with her. But I think what is so like just doing this panel, for example, like doing the Zoom, so much of it is education, and it's empowerment through education. So, when families are, if there's been a sudden death, I mean, it's just, we see it firsthand how overwhelming all of the options are, and you don't really know where to turn. So when you have someone who's planning ahead and really doing it like as an act of love for their family, so that their family doesn't have to deal with all of the questions, I think you guys are just amazing guides. I know that for us, when my mother-in-law was passing away, like that's when I had a friend who introduced me to the concept of a death doula. And I know that for our family, it just eased the whole process, just kind of knowing what to expect, having someone who could be in your corner advocating. So I think education is like top tier. And, I just appreciate you all, hosting this and facilitating this. So thank you.
I second that. And I also just wanted to add that
Heather.
Sorry.
Yeah, Heather.
I just want to add that, I think for, like Laura's saying, we're at the post-death end of things. And so, we're often a little too late to connect doulas into that. But I think, there's such a need to help those grieving afterwards. And so we do forest bathing events like grief walks, meditations, things like that. And I think that is definitely a need that we need more of at our cemetery, at least, to at least have that on offer. And so, I think that's a beautiful partnership for doulas to then be able to reach more people, because I'm sure it is hard to find, folks at the time of need, but but it's a great way to get out there and help those that are still grieving.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Sally?
I had a
some-
question, kind of a basic question. So I'm a doula. I work with clients who are planning. I do a lot of advanced care planning. And if someone is, and I've had interest in green burials. And so what would be the process? Like, do I tell them to call you? How do you work? Anybody can answer that.
I'll just start with us. It's pretty easy. You can fill out what's called a burial preference form, and it shows us that you intend on being buried here. You don't pay anything in advance. We can't take prepayment or pre-planning, and we just keep in touch until the time comes. And then we would be in touch with your responsible party to then hold a site selection once you're either in hospice or have passed.
And I would add in same with us, except we do, we have a different licensing. John mentioned, being an exempt cemetery. Prairie Creek is also exempt. Lauren, are y'all exempt or non-exempt?
Oh, no, we're fully licensed, so we can do,
You're non-exempt, so you can do pre-planning.
Yes.
Yes.
We can
So, yeah, so the two of us are licensed for, to do pre-planning. So same thing, just letting people know that I tell people the first thing you do, if you do nothing else, let your loved one, whether it's your spouse, your child, your best friend, your roommate, know what you would like. Because if you get nothing else done, tell somebody so that, you get hit by a truck when you leave here, someone knows. And then the next best thing is, write it down. Next best thing, make plans for it. Next best thing, pay for it. And so all of these steps you can do to help families, because as you all know, when the point of death comes, it doesn't matter how much you get planned and done ahead of time. It's still a lot of grief and still canceling accounts and, dealing with, probate, all of the things that it's a lot of work to deal with someone after they've passed. And so one of the best gifts we tell people you can give your families or your loved ones, whoever's going to be responsible for what to do with your body after you're gone, is to make the plan. So.
Yeah, I think Laura really summed that up perfectly. I know for us here at Glendale, we're time of need only. So if your loved one passes away, you just call us up and say, hey, we want to get buried out there, and we'll get to digging, We do have paperwork on our website. It can be found under our information tab on our website that you can print off and have filled out, attach it with your will so that your family knows. But otherwise, you just call us and say, hey, this is it, we're ready.
Yeah, I think making your wishes known is so important, and it's good to have your papers together, but then the more advanced care planning involves more detail and conversations. And so I have one question, of what, just briefly, if you want to tell us, each of you, if you have any events that you'd like us to know about. I noticed at Glendale there was some kind of like a Earth Day. I wished I could go and just be an old hippie again, but I couldn't go that weekend.
Yeah.
But anything you want us to know about that we could come to for all of you?
Yeah, we do events. We typically try to do like a spring and a fall event because it's really hot here. We don't want people out in the middle of the summer, for the summer one, but we have October, is it 24th through the 26th? We're hosting a fall event out here. There's camping, there's going to be vendors, food vendors, arts and crafts, and it's really just a big hangout session. We get together, we have a musical jam circle, and just hippies hanging out in the woods, so it is.
The idea is to get people to come to a cemetery and have a party and leave under their own.
Yeah.
Eventually come
Yeah, John likes to say, we want your body, we don't mean to rush you.
All right, how about the others? Do you have any events you could invite us to?
I do in November. It's usually coincides with Day of the Dead, November 2nd this year. Sunday, we have a potluck at noon, and then at 1 starts a program of music and poetry readings, and then our tradition of everybody that in attendance can get up and say their loved one's name, ring a bell. There's handpan music, and then we also do these little graveside memorial crafts that people can take out to their loved one's site. So Yeah, we invite anybody can come. It's a great day out in the cemetery.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Laura or Lauren?
yeah. We actually do this first weekend of first Saturday of November, have a day of remembrance or a time of remembrance and a party, but then we kind of are changing it up this year, and we're copycatting a little bit on Prairie Creek with their permission a few months ago. I'm like, can we do what you're doing? This is really cool. Like, and simpler than what we've been doing, and hopefully less expensive for us to put on. But anyway, we'll be doing that on Saturday as a just a time for a potluck picnic and to reflect and connect with about your loved ones and be out on the site. So we're still working on planning that. We're also really excited. We have different ongoing events, like we have a mindful meditation group that meets once a month, a woman who does crystal bowl sound healing once a month, and things like that. But we also are doing a bio blitz this fall, which I'm really excited about. If you've never heard of that, it's basically a time period where you have as many people, citizen science basically coming out and documenting all the life forms on the property as much as you possibly can in terms of insects, birds, plants, wildlife, all of the things that are living on that property. It's anyway, so we're excited. It's a big, huge thing. So I've been wanting to do it for years. We're just going to do it this year. So if you're in the area and you really like to be outside and want to be a part of it, stay tuned on that. So
I guess I'm the last one. So we are the newest cemetery. So our big step, like baby step for us, I guess, is just starting to do regular group tours starting in the fall. So right now we are just doing private tours as families contact us, but in the fall we'll be starting to do a more formal like group tour. And then we'll also be doing a lot of like private forest plantings, where we do have some areas where we are considering like opening it up for like a community planting day or something. So that would be a stay tuned. But we would just love for people to have the opportunity to get a feel for what the planting feels like. And yeah, so our big thing is just group tours that are coming up.
Lauren, when did y'all open officially?
November 1st, 2024.
Okay.
Which we thought was a good birthday for a
So
cemetery.
you're up to your first birthday. That's exciting.
Yeah, we're coming up on our first birthday, but it's was it All Saints Day, Dia de los Muertos? Like it's just it felt like a good birthday.
That's our birthday too, is November 1st, 2016.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my parents came out. I was like, I had our license and we're all like ready to go. I'm like, we don't have to have it all perfect yet. My mom and dad are gonna love us no matter what. So I had them come out, and they were our first contract, and I'm like, we don't have to have our spiel perfect yet, but they were our official. It just happened to be November 1st. I didn't even plan that, but that worked out great. So.
Oh, wonderful. I love that.
Yeah, congratulations.
We need to have a joint birthday party now that we don't.
Yeah, we had been doing that as a birthday party, and then I'm like, after a while we're having fun with it, but then it's like that we weren't getting that many people coming to it. And I'm like, it's more for us, the stuff we're excited about it, but like other people are like, okay, birthday party for your cemetery, like so anyway, we're taking a little different tack and just focusing more on the memorial part of things. So anyway,
I do have a
congratulations.
question that came in. Does anyone allow pet burial?
Thanks. I will say we don't do pet burials per se. However, if someone has their pet's ashes and they are being buried, they are welcome to put their ashes in with them. So we've had a lot of people that are like, here's mom's ashes. Okay, now here's Domino, here's Chico, and here's and they're pouring all their little dog's ashes in there. But so we allow that at the time of a human burial, but not on its own. So that was.
We'll second that. I think there's a different license, I believe, for pet cemetery. Like there's different requirements for that. That's my understanding. Anyway, I am not an attorney. So
we do the same thing as Heartwood, but in addition, we do animal companion burials as well.
I was told that there's a state law saying exempt cemeteries cannot bury pets.
It's not a state. It has to do with the 501c13 IRS designation. That is where there is a
So
silent.
more of a licensing problem than a law. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, there is a separate designation for a pet cemetery.
I'm pretty sure that's largely the
What's that? I couldn't hear you.
Rambling.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's rambling.
Yeah,
She's
I
the
will say one of the-
translator.
Yeah. I will say one of the reasons that we chose to not do a pet burial is the concern was people walked here and just walked in and said, "Oh, so y'all are a pet cemetery, right?" And we're like, "No, we've never said it was a pet cemetery. We have no materials, no sign, no words anywhere that says this is for animals." So we didn't want people to get the impression that this is, because people did without us even saying it. And then not want to be like, well, I don't want to be buried in that pet cemetery. So it was more of like a decision from just trying to like get out in the world as a respectful, dignified, beautiful place for humans to be buried, and not fight against this perception of like, I'm not putting mom in that pet cemetery out there, so that's just kind of like our market here. That's kind of was a decision we made. And then having said that, after we were open a few years, realized a lot of people are like, well, if my Puffy cannot be buried with me, I'm not coming. Then we're like, okay, well, if you have his ashes, Buffy can come in the grave with you, but just not ahead of time. So that was our line of thinking, just the way.
So, yeah.
we were.
Well, I guess we're at time, and this,
Oh,
I
sorry.
think no, that's fine. I think we did really well for having 1 hour for all this information. It's just so packed, and I just want to thank everyone for coming. And you can look at all these beautiful websites. They've been put into the chat, and of course, ours is www.feolda.org, where eventually pretty soon we will put this recording there for people to have. And we have other educational events. It's usually the first Thursday from 6 to 7, just like this.
Now, real quick, if we have time, I just had a really quick question for our doulas. If families wanted to find a doula, how could they go about doing so?
Yes, we have a directory on our website. So if you go to feolda.org, the link is there now for events, but you can say find a doula. And we are also going to open it. We have opened it up now to other related professionals, other businesses. So we have between 30 and 40 doulas now across the state. And the websites and contact information is there. So, but there's also other ones. There's a national NIDA, and there's other doula directories, but we like ours.
This is great. Thank you for starting this, the doula questions. How can we help you all in terms of, guiding families to you? How do we find out if it's a good fit for a family to contact you all?
Christine, you want to answer that one?
My apologies. I need to go shut off my partner's alarms. The
Oh,
chicken alarm is going off. It's got a lot of loud.
Yeah. How about another board member? I don't want to do all the talking. Chris, Laura.
Reese, what was the question specifically again?
Basically, what can we do as natural burial cemeteries, whether we have a family, like me and Laura have a family coming to pre-plan, or even, I guess really it's for the pre-planning families. How can we match families up with you all? What are the steps to sending a family to a death doula? And then I guess the other question is, do death doulas also assist after the fact? Are they able to help with the grieving process as well? So it's two-parter.
Yeah, so that comes down to the individual death doula, but I would say we're the step before legal. Not that we're giving legal advice, but we can definitely walk you through and show you all the options that are out there, versus if you end up in a legal office, they might only have their way and lead you straight through the financial path of the traditional burial and funeral. So by going through that first step, and then most of us are extremely affordable. We have floating scales to where we're really there for the family. You know, just as many of you talked about, is making this cost effective as possible. They're already going through proverbial hell. Sorry, I couldn't think of a better word, but yeah, you just lost someone. So we're here for that. And then some of us we don't just go through the legal aspects. We'll go through body, mind, and spirit, helping you, giving you the tools that you need to be able to navigate those intense moments of loss and transition. So the second part of your question, yes, most of us, we hang out with the dying person at first, but we're there to support the family. And then that relationship many times continues on past the passing of the person. Hope that answers.
Yes, thank you
And
so
then,
much.
Laura, did you have a comment for that?
And Lauren, just as Shanti mentioned, you can guide your family members to the website, FEOLDA.org website, to find a doula that would be near them if they want. You know, usually people like to have them in person, although a lot of them do also work virtually.
Oh, okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, and then my specialty is grief, so that's throughout, before, during, after, and forever. We're always dealing with that. But yeah, the website is our best suggestion.
This is a growing network where we actually know each other and what we specialize in and where our talents lie. And so if a family has a certain request or wants to move from one topic area to another and needs to work with someone else, this network likely has someone who is tailor-made for that need. So it's just getting in touch, really.
Okay.
I hope you guys all come visit all of us if you haven't any of these, because like doing the tours of our sites is really great. And Lauren, I can't wait to come see your place one of these days. And I'm so happy to see John again and meet you as well. And but yeah, and if you guys come and visit whatever you're closest to, or if you're traveling around the state, go to the one that's nearest.
Yeah.
And
It's
then we can
just
get to know
wonderful
you as well that way. So
to have everyone kind of now a little more on the same page. So with that, I want to thank everyone for joining us, and please stay in touch.
Thank you so much.
thanks for organizing this, Shanti. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.